Hi, and welcome to another episode of Simply Midori. I'm Joshua,
And I'm Midori.
and today we are going to talk about Midori's trauma and how she's navigated it and what she's learned and walk us through her journey.
Well, we were at the gym the other day.
Okay.
Found this guy's sweatshirt that said lift heavy and eat ass. I, I just didn't understand.
Well,
You are a part of this.
no. Nothing about powerlifting has anything to do with eating someone's oshiri. We don't say butt in our house. We say oshiri, which is Japanese for butt. Just FYI. What? I don't even. What are you talking about?
I was trying to get bring it up, but I was just laughing so hard.
Did you notice our painting?
Yeah.
It's two boats, two sailboats. It's Jesus taking us.
That's okay. We just let the viewers interpret it. Fantastic.
Isn't it nice? I felt like it was a nice, like, a pop of color. We should have them, our audience, to say what they like. We should have them send different backgrounds that they like.
Well, that would be funny.
Well, if you're listening, if you have background ideas for us, we would love to hear them and see them.
Yeah. Let us know, what do you think we should pop in the back.
Just DM us. I'm Joshua Dumani, and that's Midori Dumani. Instagram. That'd be fine.
That would be fun.
Okay. Do you see I put my Detroit mug? For those of you that don't know,
Like I said,
I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Not the suburbs, actual Detroit. Yep.
Very Michigander.
Very Michigander. Are we going to dive in, or are you going to avoid this?
Yeah.
So, can you tell me, as you look back on your life, what area do you think is the biggest battle for you in navigating your trauma? Present day.
Past, present, future. Like in Scrooge.
Okay.
I would say the thing that I get to deal with and navigate the most on a daily basis in the present day of 2024 for Midori Dumani would be. Oh, I'll start over. I would say probably my confidence.
What do you mean?
I believe that after I experienced my trauma, I think my confidence plummeted and my self-image went negative really fast.
Your confidence plummeted, your self-image was negative. Okay.
So I think, yeah.
So I think that people would look at you and ask the question, why do you have low self-confidence?
I was like, none of your business. I was like, lift heavy and eat Oshi.
Do you like my blue fit today?
Yeah.
I think I was going for it. I was testing out names, there's the ground fit and there's like all gray. But this is kind of like a turquoise-ish. So I was like a twerk fit, and then I was like, that won't work.
That's the funniest thing you've said today. Twerk.
So, if you have other name ideas.
Oh, with the background you could send of it. Oh my gosh, I'm twerk. I would have loved it, but in your brain, when that thought came out of your mouth or in your head.
I was like, oh, a Turk fit. And then I was like, oh, that That won't work.
That's funny.
Okay, so you're confident.
Probably like self-doubt too. Just a whole bunch of things.
Okay, so confidence.
Confidence, self-image, and self-doubt.
Can you unpack what each one of those are? Like, to you, like, what is confidence when you say, like, you lost it?
Yeah, I'll unpack them like a Christmas present. I saw this social media reel, and then I'll get to this where I saw a social media reel where wrapped presents underneath the Christmas tree, but they're just actually cardboard boxes. And every time somebody in the house acts up, probably your child, you just rip it and whip it into the fireplace.
Oh my gosh, that is literally traumatic.
So full circle here, I feel like that's what I get to do is I get to unpack my insecurities, my low self confidence, my low self image, and my self doubt. I just whip it into the fireplace and let it burn.
This is why everything shouldn't go on social media.
Let it burn. Remember that song?
Yes, I remember Usher's "Let It Burn." That was
Okay. So
that album was my jam.
it's Sam. Okay. I'm making myself laugh tears of funny this morning.
Okay.
So back to the twerk fit. Back to my self confidence.
What is confidence?
So I oftentimes get these nudges every day,
Right.
multiple times a day, and I would say that I never act upon them because I go through the gamut of like why it's not going to work, or why I'm going to be rejected if I do that, or why I shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And this past during my maternity leave, I have actively, with the help of you, have said my nudges out loud. I started by just saying them out loud in the beginning. And then I started like saying them out loud and then doing something. And then I started saying them out loud and then actually doing the nudges. And I would say I have a pretty solid like
Track
record since I've been getting the feeling of doing something, saying it out loud and acting upon it. And I would say, looking back, why I never acted on those nudges was such a fear based choice because my self confidence was so low that I would rather not do what I feel like I should do because my self confidence is already so low that if anything were to push back on my nudge, it would crumble me.
Yeah.
And I think if I hadn't have gone through some trauma at such a young age, I don't think that would have been, I don't think I would have, I think I would have acted on my nudges more because I wouldn't have already been in a deficit of my self confidence. And I would have been able to like take on the rejection readily.
Yeah.
And I think also being on staff at the church that we were at, I think my self confidence was definitely just my self confidence plummeted there also. So I think the combination of those two traumatic events and seasons really just have had me in a weary place with my confidence. And so now I actively do my best to recognize when I'm being led by low self confidence and try and switch it.
Right. So two things. One is a tangent. Do you know that in real estate, the best agents that I worked with were women that were attractive that could handle rejection? They outsold guys like by far.
That makes sense.
It wasn't even a comparison. I worked with this one woman at Marcus and Millichap that was crushing apartment buildings, and we bought so many of our buildings from her. Just because one of my business partners liked how she looked. Anywho, total tangent. But I say that to say, like, can you imagine as your confidence grows and you remove the rejection piece, what, like, the sky's the limit. I'm not sure if there's a better overall, whatever you want to say, salesperson, etc., than an attractive woman.
I had a woman once tell me, I had a woman tell me once that I'm not doing the world any good, and especially my kids any good, by not, like, by being led by my insecurities. Because
Yeah,
it just teaches them to be insecure. And raising three girls, it's like a very um obvious like thing.
right.
Like we'll go to Costco and Maverick, our 2 year old, for those of you who don't know, is wildly herself.
Oh my god.
And so she goes up to like the random Costco worker and just like asks them, may I have a cookie? And like she literally gets them. And I went with our 5 year old Roya, for those of you who don't know her, and she was like, can you make a cookie like Maverick? And I was like, well, no, I didn't ask for the cookie, Maverick did. And just like seeing Roya stumble, like seeing her not stumble because it's not like a negative, like it's not like a bad thing, but seeing her, like her self-doubt already
Yeah,
become part of her character, and like how she's reacting is like
yep.
crazy. um and so she eventually gets to it. It just takes a little bit more coaching, where the 2 year old, our 2 year old, is like, I want a cookie, so I'm going to go get a cookie. And the funniest part was like, and I saw like how the world in action is like when Maverick and Roya go, Maverick will go and ask for a cookie for Roya, which is like helping her sister. And then the other day I was there with just Maverick and she asked for a cookie, and then she looked over and saw 2 other little 2 year olds in the shopping cart and asked the person from Costco, can they have a cookie too? And then got them cookies. And I was like, this is like it when you're walking in full confidence. Like you not only help yourself and get what you want,
Yeah,
you also help those around you, like a perfect stranger.
yeah,
Like those other kids didn't even know to like ask for a cookie.
yeah.
So it was really, you're like, I don't know if you have kids or like if you are around little people, but they really teach you things. Not you, the people listening.
Little people.
like like little kids around you. I mean, like little people.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And then I felt so guilty and responsible when Roy was like, "No, you ask," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm probably subconsciously teaching her that I'm insecure, and therefore she's being insecure." And so it's been like an eye opener for me.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So you mentioned that your confidence is connected to your nudges. How do you feel? Do you feel that listening to yourself, responding, and taking action will build your confidence?
Yeah, I think it builds. I think in my opinion, it all goes back to like a trust. Like I get to trust myself that I'm making the right decision.
Right.
And I get to trust myself that it's okay if it's not the right decision. I get to trust myself to like get back up and like do it all over again.
Okay, so that's confidence. Then you mentioned low self-worth. Oh, hold on. For the confidence piece, though, you said that it plummeted from your trauma and from being on staff at a church. What's the connection?
I think I said self-image.
Well,
It's self-worth.
okay, well, we can come back to self-image. But what's the connection piece of
You know what this brings me back to?
love to hear?
Mr. Miyagi.
I I would just love to like get in your brain to understand like what is happening.
Oh, it's just the greatest quote sometimes.
The greatest quotes. Come on. Let's your
No, it's the
Mr.
same one.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear your Mr. Miyagi.
It's okay to lose to your opponent. It's not okay to lose to fear.
You didn't even say it without laughing. What's the quote?
It's okay to lose to your opponent, and it's not okay to lose to fear.
Who quotes Mr. Miyagi like every day?
Well, here we are.
Okay, so what is the connection? You said your confidence dropped with your trauma and being on church staff.
I think with being on it, with my experience when I was on staff at church was I overvalued being accepted and I undervalued who I was.
You overvalue being accepted and undervalue. Wow.
So I think on like, those like scales that Maria's landing with,
Right?
it's like I put so much value like on being accepted that I chose to like just mute myself. So the scale was so high over here and so low, like it wasn't balanced at all.
Right.
And anytime I feel like I did speak up, it took me so much of like self talk to like say something. And then I feel like it just went like this.
Why did it go like that?
Because I feel like my experience on church stuff is like it's one way. And one way is the best way and one way is the only way kind of thing. And so if you did it like there was no space for like a different just like there was no space for conversation and for some decisions.
Got it. And that lowered your worth.
Yeah, like it lowered my self-esteem, it lowered my self-confidence, and it just reaffirmed my what am I trying to say? It reaffirms like what I had been my self-fulfilling prophecy of like if I say something, I'll be rejected in real time.
Okay. That makes sense.
So it just is like it would create the cycle. And again, I feel like if I hadn't have gone through my trauma prior to and was in the processing my trauma, I don't think it would have mattered. I think I would have had like the oomph or like the wherewithal to like push through to break down that barrier of like and then have like a bigger conversation. But because my self confidence was so low already and I had already such a big fear of rejection that like once I was met with more rejection, I was like, but I'm out. But I think now if I was around a similar table and in a similar conversation, I think I would have more emotional intelligence and more confidence to like push through that fear of rejection and have like a more diligent conversation rather than just shutting down.
Yeah.
Well, you said it was picking up last time. Right?
Yeah. Perfect. No, just one more edit. Let's keep going. Let's finish thing. So to bring this to a close, let's talk about this last piece. Self-image. You said your self-image was impacted. And I think that the self-image piece is such an interesting word choice because you're made in the image of God.
Mm.
And I usually talk about worth or value, but I feel like self-image is such an interesting like word choice. So can you talk about what is self-image and how that was impacted?
Why do you think it's such an interesting?
Because I feel like self-image is a direct attack on like I have always used, like I tell most of our clients, right, it's their worth or their value or their identity. But I feel like when I think about self-image, right, right, most people preach on, right, the Imago Dei, we're made in the image of God. And so when you look at that piece, like being made in the image of God, I feel like once you actually realize that, once you realize that idea, all of the other things, worth, value, confidence, etc., naturally come into fruition, and naturally you would develop right, boundaries, protection of yourself, standing up for yourself, confidence, right, the list goes on.
Right.
So not identifying or realizing your self image, I think, would plummet every other area of your life.
That's so interesting. I've never looked at it that way.
I haven't either until this very moment. Because, right, I think of self image of I'm looking in a mirror, and no matter what, I my vision of what's staring back at me is totally blurred. So as I look in the mirror, even if I'm staring at the most attractive, physically fit, flawless individual there is, right? If my self image is tainted,
It's like the lenses you see yourself through.
right, I'll never see that. I'll never see the value. I'll never see any of the other things.
Right. Huh.
And so when I think about Genesis, right, it's like the devil when when he came and he talked to Adam and Eve, and I think about, right, not just the words that he said, like he attacked their image from the standpoint of their image represented their wholeness and their purpose and their legacy and what they were doing in the garden. And right when he made them question, and right, you'll be like God, I tied that all back to that image piece. So it's like, okay, so we could be like God, so we'll eat this fruit.
Yeah.
But we can keep going on that all day. Needless to say, your self image.
Oh, but you're saying that Adam and Eve were already flawless.
Right, like I think for all of us, we are all made in the image of God. And that's why I think that part of the idea, right, we were talking about humility. It's like I don't think that most of us have a humility issue. I think that we have a self-image or a self-worth issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like because we see ourselves as less than, we don't see ourselves as made in the image of God. So we all get deceived by the serpent. And so we believe, right, more money makes us like God, more control makes us like God, more, right, fill in the blank, more cars, more, all of these things make us like God. So we're settling for a false sense of self image and a false sense of identity.
Right.
But in reality, it's like, hey, bro, you're already made in the image of God. So you just need to realize who your divine creator is and actually accept that.
Yeah. And put on like those lenses.
And yeah, put on those lenses.
I think my self image, yeah, that's an interesting take on it. I think my self image was impacted because not only from like my trauma of like what I went through when I was raped, but I also think it's just as like navigating the world, like being mixed,
Yeah.
right? Like for those of you who don't know, I'm half Japanese, half Mexican, so my hair was never straight enough and my hair was never curly enough. And it's funny because I would say the thing that I get complimented about like the most is my hair, but it's probably also one of the things that I'm the most insecure about because it was never enough on either side, right? Like my family, my mom's side of the family has like stick straight hair, so like they can take a shower and then it just dries and it like looks great because it just is like down. And then my dad's side of the family, you like take a shower, you like throw some stuff and throw some mousse in it, and your hair is curly, and that's the way it's like supposed to look. But I have like a a hybrid head of hair where like it just like it gets to be like styled
Yeah.
or like whatever. And so it just is like an insecure point for me of like, oh, because it was never enough on either side from my perspective.
Right.
Like it was never what it was supposed to be. And so I think that is like a thing of my self image that I get to like work through. It's like, what does that like? You know, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I think that makes total sense. So you think that part of it was being mixed? What do you think the other parts are?
Well, I think it just, I think it goes into like what it is. Like I literally remember being in high school gym class, and you like swim for like I don't know what grade you're in, and I like went under the water, and my hair got wet, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Because I only have 10 minutes to get ready, and I know my hair's not gonna dry like straight, like, and my hair's gonna be like really frizzy. And I remember this like Hispanic girl in my class came up to me with like a handful of mousse, like just put mousse in it, and I was like, and she put so much mousse in my hair, and it was so crunchy, but because my hair is not that curly, it like weighed it all down, so I looked like crunchy, wiggly. It was just like, and I had to go through like, the rest of school like that, and I was like, this is horrible because it's so crunchy. I have you ever seen Cool Runnings when the guy comes out of like the cooler and he like cracks a piece of his hair off, his like braid?
Uh,
That's literally what I felt like, but with mousse. And I was like, after that, I literally remember coming home and being like, I need a doctor's note for swimmers here. I'm never going under the water ever again. And I never went under the water ever again in that whole session of swim. I like went back to, I like was like, Mom, I need to know I have swimmer's ear. I can't go under. And from that day forward, I never went under the water. And then my teacher told me I had to wear a swimming cap, but I was like, I can't fit all my hair underneath the swimming cap. So I just like stayed right here, just to go any deeper than my chest.
oh my gosh.
But I like that's obviously an overwhelming life experience. I remember literally being in like the high school locker room and she like came at me with this and moves and I was like, oh my god. Like I wasn't even really your friend, I don't think. I think we just happened to be in like one gym class together.
So to bring this to a close, because I think we can keep going.
Yeah, we can talk about my self image and security on the next podcast.
Yeah.
Or the podcast in the future.
Is there anything? Is there any actionable step? Let's say step one for restoring all of those things that you would recommend?
Well, I think a lot of my self confidence has been due to like being married.
Has increased?
Yeah, I think
Come on, that's a win.
it's been really helpful because like we're in a covenant relationship. So like I can be vulnerable with you and like tell you these things. Like I tell you everything and then you know that that's my like weakness or like my blind spot. And you as my husband get to like speak into those places and I get to grow in my trust with myself of like telling you about them. And then therefore it grows my trust between us. And then you've been extremely like encouraging. Like you've been encouraging, like when I'm like I say my nudges aloud, you're like, yeah, let's go do it. And I'm like, well, I don't know, and I second guess them, but you don't. And every time that you've pursued the nudge, it's always a successful outcome. And so it's been really helpful for me because I think if I was just single by myself, I would talk my way out of the nudges. So my practical step would be to get married
Oh.
to the right person.
All right.
But it makes a difference.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we're in that generation of no kids, no marriage.
Yeah.
Like,
Live it up.
yeah. But to me, the practical step and the amazing benefit has been being married to somebody who believes in me more than I believe in myself. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Until next time.
Have a good one.